The first time my sister smiled at my fiancé in a way that made my stomach tighten, I told myself I was overthinking it. Weddings have a way of making everyone emotional. People become protective, nervous, sentimental, even a little strange. I had spent months planning every detail of our ceremony with Ethan, and I assumed the stress was making me see problems that weren't really there. Still, the feeling refused to disappear. My family had always believed that teasing was a sign of affection. Boundaries were treated like optional suggestions. If someone borrowed your clothes without asking, you were expected to laugh. If a cousin embarrassed you at a family barbecue, you were told to lighten up. Any complaint was met with the same response: don't be so sensitive. Growing up in that environment taught me to question my own instincts before I questioned anyone else's behavior. So when my younger sister, Vanessa, started paying unusual attention to Ethan, I tried to ignore it. It began with little things. She laughed a little too hard at his jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. During family dinners, she'd somehow end up sitting beside him no matter where everyone else was seated. If Ethan stood to refill his drink, Vanessa would suddenly decide she needed one too. She complimented his shirts, his haircut, even the watch I'd given him for his birthday. Good taste, she'd say with a smile that lingered just a second too long. Whenever I looked uncomfortable, everyone acted as though I were the problem. "Oh, come on," my mother laughed one Sunday afternoon while clearing the table. "She's just being friendly." My father shrugged. "If Ethan really loves you, then none of this matters." Vanessa smirked across the room. "Exactly. Unless someone's insecure." The word hit harder than I expected. Insecure. It was a label my family loved using whenever they wanted to end an argument. It didn't matter whether your feelings were reasonable. Once they called you insecure, the conversation was over. Ethan noticed my expression immediately. As we drove home that evening, he reached across the center console and held my hand. "You've been quiet." I hesitated. "Do you think Vanessa flirts with you?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he let out a slow breath. "I think she pushes boundaries." That wasn't the denial I'd expected. "You noticed?" "I noticed weeks ago." My heart sank. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to create problems between you and your family." Every time she said something strange, someone else laughed like it was normal. "I figured maybe your family communicates differently." I stared out the window. I was hoping I was imagining it. "You aren't." The simplicity of his answer scared me more than anything else. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa became bolder. She texted Ethan directly instead of using the family group chat. She sent him photos asking which dress looked better. She asked him for guy advice. One afternoon she even invited him to lunch without mentioning it to me. Ethan showed me every message. "I haven't replied," he said. Looking at the conversation made me feel sick. None of her messages crossed an obvious line, but together they painted a picture that was impossible to ignore. She was testing him. When I confronted Vanessa privately, she burst into laughter. "Oh my gosh," she said. "You're actually jealous. I'm asking you to stop." "Stop what?" "Messaging my fiancé. I can text whoever I want. Not when you're deliberately making me uncomfortable." She folded her arms. "If your relationship is so fragile that a few texts scare you, maybe you should be worried about him instead of me." I walked away before saying something I'd regret. That evening my mother called. "I heard you upset your sister." I asked her to respect my relationship. "You embarrassed her." "No. She embarrassed herself." Silence filled the line. Then my father's voice joined from the background. "You're making a mountain out of nothing." Nothing. That word echoed in my mind for days. Was it really nothing? Or had I simply spent my whole life being taught that my feelings mattered less than everyone else's comfort? The closer our wedding came, the stranger things became. Vanessa suddenly volunteered to help Ethan choose his tuxedo. She offered to drive him to appointments. She insisted on helping him write his vows. Each suggestion sounded innocent by itself. Together, they felt calculated. Ethan politely declined every offer. That only seemed to encourage her. One Friday evening we attended my grandmother's birthday dinner. Halfway through dessert, Vanessa stood up and announced, "I have an idea." Everyone looked at her. She smiled. "I think Ethan should spend one whole day with me." I frowned. "What?" She looked directly at me. "Just to prove how strong your relationship is." The room grew strangely quiet. "What are you talking about?" I asked. My uncle chuckled before answering. "It's the family loyalty test." Several relatives nodded as though this explained everything. "The what?" My aunt smiled. "We've always done it." "I've never heard of it." "That's because you've never brought someone serious home before." Vanessa leaned back in her chair. "The idea is simple." She looked at Ethan. "I spend a day trying to convince you to leave my sister." A few people actually laughed. "If you refuse," she continued, "you pass." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're joking." "No," my father said calmly. "It's tradition." "There is no way this is a tradition. It tells us whether someone's loyal." I stared around the table. No one looked shocked. No one looked uncomfortable. As though asking someone's future husband to entertain deliberate flirting was perfectly reasonable. Finally Ethan spoke. "I appreciate that your family values loyalty." Every eye turned toward him. "But loyalty isn't something you prove by participating in disrespect." The smile on Vanessa's face faded for the first time all evening. "I won't be taking part." The room became silent enough to hear silverware touching plates. I thought the conversation was finally over. I had no idea Vanessa had already started planning something far more dangerous, something she believed would expose Ethan, but would end up exposing everyone else instead.